Welcome to Old Tales of Great Storms. Powered by my mustache, built by my beard, and played by you. Thanks for stopping by. We're going to run through setup here and the first turn. For deck building and individual card type breakdowns, please just refer to their respective videos. This will be just a run through of setup and the first turn. All you need to play is your deck and your leader. So let's start with your leader. Your leader will have a number of starting missions, locations, and potentially characters. Place your missions, then place your locations and any characters. Your opponent will be doing the same. If you both wish to deploy the same unique location of accessibility 5, then the player with the highest initiative deploys their location, and the other player places that location in their deck and chooses a different location to deploy. If you and your opponent have the same initiative, then let chance decide. Shoot, I need that. Damn it. Where'd it go? Man, I needed that. Goddamn eggs are so expensive. Oh, right. To start every turn, draw up to 8 cards. Now comes the move phase. The player with the highest initiative chooses a character to move, then the opponent, until both players pass. Once a player passes, their opponent may make the rest of their moves until they too pass. A character may only move one accessibility in either of the 4 directions. So, for example, the player playing Those of the Flame has the higher initiative, and so may move Great General Kakothep from the hill fort at accessibility 4, forward to the old wall at accessibility 2, or back to any location at accessibility 5, or any location at accessibility 4 on the same side of the table. What you cannot do would be to move more than one accessibility, say back here to Nilin at accessibility 2 on the other side of the table. Don't do this. Here is a blank game board to help you visualize what I mean. The Tabletop Simulator mod has several of these as game boards. Though this is not a good move, Great General Kakothep will move to the old wall and challenge Warlord Shard there. Because the General only has a charisma of 4, and the Warlord has a charisma of 5, control of that location remains with the player playing as Those of the Fist. The deploy phase comes next, and, like the move phase, it is simultaneous. The player with the highest initiative deploys a card first, then their opponent, until both players pass. You may deploy boosts, locations, or characters in this phase. Here, I have overlaid the game board from before so that you can better visualize that you may only deploy a character to your side of the table, any location of accessibility 5, or any location you control on the opponent's side of the table. You may not deploy a character to a location on the opponent's side of the table that you do not control. Don't do this. Any costs are paid by placing the same number of cards from your hand into the discard pile. Because the player playing as Those of the Flame has the higher initiative, they deploy first. They want to deploy a lieutenant to Citadel Inferno. The lieutenant has a cost of 2, and so they place 2 cards from their hand into their discard pile, and place the lieutenant on Citadel Inferno. The player playing as Those of the Fist sees that Warlord Shard could be in trouble and could deploy a boost, Indomitable. It would increase his toughness by 1 if Warlord Shard's strength or toughness was able to be modified.
Read your cards, boys and girls.
So they will deploy Lady Tihana there instead. She has good synergy with a Warlord. They place 4 cards from their hand into the discard pile. Now, their opponent wants to deploy a Horseman, and as they have deployed the Lieutenant first, it deploys for free.
Strategy.
The player playing as Those of the Fist does not have enough to deploy Lady Tiani. Names are hard, don't judge. But they could deploy Indomitable to Lady Tihana, increasing her toughness. But instead, they will pass and try to set a trap for their opponent. Blissfully ignorant, their opponent plays 2 more Horsemen to Citadel Inferno for free, and deploy the Tower, a location of accessibility 3. They slide Neelan, a location of accessibility 2, down, place the tower in between Neelan and the locations at accessibility 5. They will try to occupy it later. Now, having only 1 card remaining in their hand and not enough other cards in their hand to deploy it, they pass, and we move on to the battle phase. The player with the highest initiative may initiate the first battle, then their opponent, until they both pass.
Simultaneous turns all the way down.
Every battle after the first costs 1 more. So your first battle costs nothing, but your second costs 1, the third 2, and so on until you run out of cards in your hand. Only 1 battle may be initiated at a location by either player. Quite overconfident, the player playing as Those of the Flame chooses to initiate a battle at the Old Wall. They then declare an attacker. As they only have the Great General, they turn him sideways. He is now exhausted. An exhausted character cannot defend. Their opponent then must declare a defender. They choose Warlord Shard. Compare strength and toughness. If the attacker's strength is higher than the defender's toughness, then the defender is defeated and placed in the discard pile, and the player with the initiative may then choose another character until they have none left, or the opponent has no defenders left. They are tied, so neither character is placed in the discard pile, and initiative remains with the attacker. Now, the defender here could use the Old Wall's ability to increase Warlord Shard's toughness by 2, or Warlord Shard's own ability to increase it by 5. If they were to do this, then they would have a greater toughness than the attacker's strength, and if this happens, then initiative is taken from the attacker, and now the defender has the initiative, and chooses an attacker, and their opponent must choose a defender until whichever player has the initiative for that battle runs out of attackers.
You gotta be careful.
That's right, Midnight Me in a snowbank. Just because you start an attack doesn't mean, if you aren't careful, that you will finish it. Now, for the purposes of demonstration, we won't do any of those things, and just have Great General Kakothep's attack met by Warlord Shard, and neither character is defeated. However, this is where the player playing Those of the Fist plays an event. Counterattack. This card allows them to initiate a battle at a location where a defensive battle just ended for 2 cost. Wait, I thought you said only 1 battle could be initiated at a location. Yes, that is the rule.
I don't make the rules.
I just follow them. Cards may break rules. Just make sure that you don't. Don't cheat. After playing Counterattack and paying the 2 cost, they place the event with its cost in the discard pile and begin the counterattack. They declare Warlord Shard as an attacker. As Warlord Shard is experienced, he does not exhaust after attacking. Now their opponent is in trouble They have no legal defenders to meet Warlord Shard's attack. When this happens, you attack the opponent's leader directly. And the defender must place a card from the top of their resource pile underneath their leader. If at any time you have 10 cards underneath your leader, you lose the game. Neither player has any more locations they can initiate battle at, so we move on to the influence phase. In this phase, you total up your influence score, and the player with the lowest score places a card from their resource pile underneath their leader. You gain 1 for any location you occupy, 2 for any you control, and 1 for each of your flipped missions. And certain other cards may give you influence score as well. So, looking here, the player playing as Those of the Flame, they have 1 for occupying the Old Wall, 2 for controlling Citadel Inferno, and 1 for having Live in the Flame flip. Looking at the player playing as Those of the Fist, they have 2 for controlling the Old Wall, and 1 for having the Rat Who Would Be King flip. With a score of 4 to 3, the player playing as Those of the Fist will have to place a card from the top of their resource pile underneath their leader. If this wasn't the first turn, of course. Always skip the very first influence phase. After the first turn,
You gotta be careful.
finally, at the end of the turn, both players unexhaust any exhausted characters, place their discard piles underneath their resource pile, and start a new turn by drawing up to 8 cards. Well, that's it. Thanks for making it to the end. Check out the mod on Tabletop Simulator if you found it interesting, and shoot me a message if you'd like to learn the game hands-on. I know it's a little complicated. Like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Supposed to say that at the start of the video, I guess, eh?